but is he actually here?
I am. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good
Hello.
evening.
Why does it say that we're live?
Because I have to
Because
do
this
that.
streams live on YouTube.
Yeah, you could actually,
Um,
if you wanted to, you could watch us live right now. You could put your video on and
You didn't read the disclaimers when you signed in?
I saw that there were disclaimers.
Lusk, when we're done, you should, after it's uploaded onto, once you have the file, you should like delete it from YouTube or whatever to the greatest extent possible.
oh, I think yeah, I don't think I've been doing that. I think I should probably go back and clean up my archive.
Seems like it'd be wise.
Okay.
Hey guys.
Hey, Dave.
Hey,
So there's no run. I've got some notes. We've got a lot of stuff to cover.
I
But
mean,
so
maybe you pressing us with questions we don't see coming will be entertaining.
Are we just going
well,
to spend the next 2 hours talking about Carmelo Anthony and Dennis Schroeder?
so we're gonna. I'm going to pepper you with questions that you haven't prepared to answer. I don't know whether it's going to be entertaining or not, but that's what we're going to do.
Hmm.
Should we start, or is there anything we need to do, Les?
No, I don't think there's any special dance or ceremony or anything we got to do.
I guess my only question is, to what extent are we planning on doing any reform tonight versus
So
just
here's
saving that entirely
yeah.
for next week?
So here's my thinking on that. So I think it's the 800-pound gorilla. So we're not going to not talk about it, but I think tonight we should talk about it in like more subjective, you know, terms, and then next week, book or whenever Bookminder's ready to do this, he can do a sort of a more formal presentation.
Okay.
So, subjective meaning like just only be. Yeah, it's hard to do that. I
Like
mean,
I like in other words, like my goal tonight is not to provide the league with some like public service. Like
yeah.
let's talk about it, to the extent that it interests us, and we don't have to get into pros and cons and all the shit that was on Bookbinder sheet. Like we don't need to. We can, but I don't. That's not like the goal. The goal is like as it comes up organically, we'll talk about it, and I've got a segment for it. But I don't want to like. It'll be a more like what wouldn't it be cool? It'll be like let's talk about Dynasty League. Let's talk about promotion and relegation. Like like here's what the current proposal is. Like what else can we do to this to make it cool? Like that kind of
No,
conversation,
no,
as
yeah,
opposed to like are we ready to actually do this?
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Should we start?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to season 4, episode 1 of the Collier Pod. I'm your host, David Horn. With me are owners of the defending UAFBL champion. No, you're not the defending UAFBL champion. Gabe Gold. Welcome, Gabe.
That was either a compliment or really rough. I'm not sure which, but I think I'm going to go with rough.
You should take it as a compliment. And owner of the first place going into next season, Dirty Dog Nation, Brian Lusky. Welcome.
Hey, I'll take it. First place for a day.
So we haven't done this in a while. There's a lot going on in UFBL for the off season. But before we get to what's happening now, let's talk about where we've been. So we recorded last on the last night of the season with our actual defending champion Brian Emmer. We have not recorded since, and something very dramatic and disappointing has happened to the league since then. So let's tear that Band-Aid off, get right into it. Lusk, were you surprised ultimately that Phil left our league, or was this something that you had prepared for over the last 6-12 months?
Phil won't like me saying this, but I was surprised. I mean, he had warned me and he had intimated that it was going to happen. I guess I clearly didn't take it as seriously as I should have, and I have only myself to blame for not trying to do something about it sooner. I don't know if it would have helped, but it did surprise me. The announcement surprised me, and it kind of it had an effect on me when we saw the email.
How is your effort to talk him back? Well, I guess he's already jumped off the ledge. So how's your effort to place a trampoline beneath him and have him bounce back in to the window?
Not great. I mean, I kind of understand where he's coming from in all this, right? I do wish that, part of the challenge here is that he's not there's not really much of a trampoline there, because the trampoline requires the league to agree with his position and react to it, and that's really the thing that is most concerning to me, is that I actually think that the majority, my guess is that the majority of the league agrees to some extent with Phil's position, but not so strongly that they are leaving the league over it yet. And yet we're not, really doing anything. We're not treating it with the urgency that I think we should. Given, I mean, this is a loss, man. I mean, when you think about the dynamic of the league 3 or 4 years ago, I thought this league was pretty unbreakable in a lot of terms, and Phil's departure really puts a crack in that, from my perspective.
No, I think that's fair. I think the fact that it's the break is not as severe as it might be. I mean, Phil's coming to the ranch this year, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we haven't really lost Phil.
But man, this is the thing. Like, we could all schedule a ranch weekend every year at the ranch and just do that to hang out. But like, we do love fantasy basketball. Let's not forget that. We love the competition of it. I do. When it's a real fantasy basketball league, I love our league.
So we don't play in a real fantasy basketball league anymore.
I'm not sure what we play. I'm not sure what we play. Like,
Gabe, what do we play in?
I don't like any of that, Lusky. I don't like you saying you don't know if we play real fantasy. Like, we play a fantasy basketball league, and one of the people that we played / would like to play with in the future had a strong reaction to how things are going, happens to be a very strong-willed and stubborn person, and decided to peace out. I think you're making a trend out of an individual event here, and I do think that we should be treating it seriously. And I am very interested in having the types of discussions that would get us to a place where maybe Phil would have fewer objections, but the rest of us, as far as I know, are still really enjoying ourselves and are only looking to make something very enjoyable more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think I'm closer to the Gabe side of this, Lusk, in that I don't think this is like. Look, I was also really shocked in some ways, because just the reality of it, as you said, when the email came. On the other hand, he's been telegraphing this for 2 years. We had a podcast last year, me, him, and Emmer, where we talked about reform stuff. He's been very open and transparent. I know that's redundant with everyone, about his concerns, over that time. And he was very. There was no like drama about it. He had enough of, as Gabe said, where things are going in our league. I think if we look, I think there's, as you said, Lusk, at the beginning, there are other people who want to reform the league. I think we should take that all seriously, not design reforms for Phil's benefit necessarily, but if there's reform and it's meaningful and Phil likes the look of the league that comes out of that, he may well rejoin. And that's when I say, like, we haven't lost Phil. I think he's still UAFBL curious, even though he's not hooking up with UAFBL anymore.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I certainly hope that Phil, he has an open invite, and I will frankly be upset if he just elects not to join us at the ranch every year. But it's not about that. I mean, the Keep Show is an original. He's one of the most fun people to banter with throughout the year about players and to talk deals with, and that's going to be a big missing piece. It's just it's a loss.
We all agree on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. What's happening with his actual team? Are there like liabilities that are going to just get erased from the record?
Well,
Has anyone
I
given
think
that
so. I'm
any
gonna look
thought?
it up. I think I think that was part of why he had offered to like stay on for
Play
1
another
year.
year. Yeah.
Was
So
because
I think he's got like Marc Gasol on a good contract or like a decent contract, I think. And he's got, I think, 1 more year of Russell, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, that looks
So neither of them are putrid. Like Jeremy Clarkson's not still under contract, right?
no, Clarkson's off contract.
So yeah, neither of those are.
And
I don't
then he's
know.
gonna
Like we're introducing any inequality by anything happening with those two contracts.
right. No, the only weird thing is going to be that there's going to be extra cash in the pool because he's at a deficit. Lusk, do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, he's at 373. So that's right. That's right. So there'll be extra.
There's 27 extra bucks floating
27,
around.
I would be shocked if we noticed that.
Yeah.
Dude, failing to prepare.
It's like the new double draft that they're talking about in 2022.
And one extra slot that's just out there, but yeah,
right.
It doesn't matter.
Now you got to price that into everything you're doing. Lusky, when you go
guys,
through and try to allocate all
the double draft.
What's that?
Have you guys heard about the double draft?
No. What's the double draft?
In 2022, they're going to forego the 1 year of college for the real league. So there's going to be 2 classes worth of talent in 1 year. So like they're saying that like first rounders in the 2022 draft are going to be worth, the most a first rounder has ever been worth.
So that makes sense. Can we talk about the trade that happened today? I don't understand it at all. So Carmelo, I'm gonna tell you what I understand from it, and whichever one of you, as soon as I make a mistake, somebody please speak up, okay?
Okay.
I think Carmelo Anthony was traded to the Hawks and then immediately waived. Is that right so far?
Yes.
I think Dennis Schroeder was sent back to Oklahoma City and was not waived.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Philadelphia was involved. Justin Anderson is going to like Atlanta, and is TLC going to OKC?
Yes. Yes.
So why did Philly got Mike Muscala? Did I miss anything?
A first rounder went from OKC to Atlanta.
Yes. So what does Philly get out of this? Were they trying to get off
Muscala?
Justin Anderson? No way.
No, really. I think that weird Bielitsa thing happened, and I think they might think that Muscala
they just need like a warm body.
The Bielitsa thing is one of the most incredible stories.
So he hadn't signed. He had just like
he did the DeAndre Jordan thing. He had committed to the Sixers.
And then he told them that he was going to go play in Europe.
And then maybe he's signing with the Kings.
Why would he do that?
I don't know.
Well, the Kings must be offering him more money.
Yeah, I don't know.
So Atlanta. So how does it work? Like Atlanta waives Melo,
and Melo's going to become a Rocket.
Does that mean that Atlanta has to like do like the stretch or something to eat the whatever he's owed? Like how does that work? Why couldn't OKC just waive Melo?
You're getting into cap stuff.
So OKC could have waived Melo. So OKC saved a bunch of luxury tax money on this. Was it because Atlanta wasn't in the tax, so they were able to do things? Atlanta has a ton more flexibility here, because they're like garbage fire.
Yeah.
But
my question is, why did Atlanta take on Jeremy Lin for absolutely no reason?
Because they got a pick out of that. Because remember that was effectively a 3-way deal. They
didn't. They got maybe like a second rounder or something. They didn't
No, but they actually got a first rounder as well as part of it, right? Because wait, what was there was Brooklyn?
No, they did not. It was just straight up. They just like took him on, and then the rest of it was Brooklyn and Denver.
So Denver gave their first to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn gave Lynn and a second to Atlanta.
Something like that. Yeah.
We should do a podcast of us not having actual NBA trades in front of us.
You know what? Everyone's been clamoring all offseason for a pod. This is what they want from us.
Speculating on the terms and then giving our half-baked analysis without any understanding of the cap.
Yeah.
When we could just Google it silently.
So,
Wait, you were about to ask me something about keepers for next year, Warren.
no, I was commenting that Phil's deficit creates a surplus for the cash and slots. That's all.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that when you go through before the auction, part of your preparation is that you go through and allocate all the dollars that are going to be spent, and so you need to now account for $27 extra. Don't
Yeah,
you do
I
that
haven't
still?
done that, but I do that. I've already done my keeper analysis,
Have you?
and yeah,
In July, you did the
yeah,
keeper analysis? Tell
yeah.
me about that.
Well, we've got 43 bona fide keepers, no questions asked. It's obvious. I mean, 19.
Who's 43rd on that list?
So 19 of these are already under contract. So I just
Okay.
assume that those are getting kept, right?
There's no toss back.
Buyouts are not included in this list, so I don't think none of these guys are buyouts.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true because Marquise Chris is on the list.
Okay. He's not getting bought out. He's not getting. I guarantee you, he's not getting bought out.
Yeah, he's got 2 years left.
No one on this call has any real relationship to that contract, so I would just move on.
There's no way that's happening.
So, okay, so there's 19 under contract. Then I have an additional 15 that are definitely getting kept.
Who are like 14 and 15 on that list?
I mean, from my perspective, you guys are gonna tell me I'm crazy, but like Kuzma and
you think Kuzma is definitely getting kept?
I do.
Where are his minutes going to come from in Los Angeles this year?
Well, he's the only guy on that entire team that can shoot a 3-pointer, right?
Josh Hart, baby, isn't he on your team?
Dude, KCP had one bad 3-point shooting year.
And Josh Hart,
KCP is gonna get
KCP's on Chupacabras.
Yeah, he's gonna get a ton of run anyway.
And Mo Wagner.
He's the lowest. He's the lowest. He's
right.
the lowest of
Dude,
my definite keys.
Mo is gonna steal Kuzma's fucking minutes.
Yeah.
Wait, do you know, Dave? Do you know off the top of your head how much Kuzma's contract is?
Kuzma's contract, no.
So
Lusky knows.
what is the most
It's
you would
lot.
pay in contract for Kyle Kuzma as a keeper? Let's say 1 year.
Do you know what he's actually owed?
Yeah.
What's the most I would pay just for this year to own Kuzma?
Yeah, like what do you think is a reasonable price for Kuzma as a keeper for this year?
Factoring in the slot, or you're asking me what I would pay at auction?
Well, we're assuming that a slot would be involved.
Okay. I would not keep Kuzma this year.
At any price?
I hadn't finished my sentence, dude. I would not keep Kuzma this year at a price lower than $20. At a price higher than $20. I would only keep him lower if it was lower than $20 plus the slot.
His price is $25 next year.
He's 25. He's gonna get kept. So then there's an additional 21 keepers that I have on the maybe list. But a lot of these, like if you guys saw them, you'd be like, oh yeah, they're definitely getting kept.
So wait, Kuzma's the worst on your definitely being kept list.
I think so. I think Kuzma's the worst on the definite list.
And what's definitely being kept list plus already under contract list?
34.
34.
So 34, and there's 43 slots next year because we have the imbalance with Phil.
So
right?
slots are going to be expensive.
9 slots. Yeah, slots are going to. Yeah, I mean the slot market's already a little bit hot. I've gotten outreach from a couple managers, and this list of maybes is. I mean, I think a lot of these are. I mean, like if I don't find a good enough offer for my slots, I'll buy a couple of these guys. They're good.
I am highly dubious of your claim that you are getting outreach for slots already.
I have. I've gotten 2 managers ask me. I mean, they've given me softball offers that I haven't taken, but I've received offers from 2 managers.
Gabe, do you think what do you think about the slot market this year? You have no slots, right? You're out of the market.
I have no slots, yeah.
I have a lot of slots, Dave. Of course I'm getting offers.
I have a lot of slots and I haven't gotten any offers.
But you also have a lot of keepers.
That's for damn sure. Let's move on to my next topic, which is before we move on to my next topic, I have one more point about Phil. This is a on-the-spot question, and it might not land, and that might be bad for everyone involved. But my question was, what is the best thing about the Keep Show that we're going to miss? So we've talked a little bit, I think, offline about sort of everyone in UFBL has their UFBL superpower. Everybody has something that's great that they contribute. what are we going to miss most about the Keep Show? Gabe, can you go first?
So a lot of things. I think this is not a hard question to answer for me, but I'm going to say he's someone. Not everyone in the league has opinions outside of Basketball Monster, and I love how opinionated Phil is. I like that he has taste in players, and there are guys that he likes more than is logical, and guys that he likes less than are as logical, and that makes him an interesting person to talk with and an interesting person to deal with.
That's a good answer, and I completely agree. Lusky?
I completely agree with that. I mean, he always has an offer in my inbox. You know, it's like he's not afraid to like engage in trade talks, and that can't be said for everybody in the league. So I like that he's always trying to get something done.
Yeah, mine. I have two. I think they're related. One is that he knows what's happening in the league. I think more than anyone else. Like when I'm at the top of the standings, I don't really know what's happening in the middle or the bottom of the standings. When I'm at the bottom of the standings, I sort of know what's happening at the top of the standings, but don't really. I don't have like total recall of everybody's roster, of everybody's situation, and can't process sort of in real time what a particular trade that happens in the middle of the season on like a Wednesday afternoon like means for those managers. And because he has all of that in his head and I think thinks about it in sort of critical ways, he's always like the first to have a very well-formed understanding of like why something in our league happens. And then the other one, which was related, I've already forgotten, but I'll come back to it as we go.
Well, I just want to say I couldn't agree with yours more. And in fact, I think I would be very upset if Phil did not come to the ranch. However, Phil on his own is the most powerful Oppo research asset in UAFBL, and we need to figure out what our guidelines are for whether some people are going to get, more access to a expert, impartial consultant that didn't used to exist than others.
I actually think we shouldn't have any rules around that. I think it would be
fine.
Fun to just have Phil like wandering the ranch, like giving advice to whoever wants it.
Fine. Just saying it's a factor.
It is a factor. So this segues, I think, into which would probably be our next main topic, which is the effort that is underway now, led by our commissioner, Scott Bookbinder. And let me just say at the outset that Books couldn't record tonight for reasons that he didn't disclose to me. But we didn't want that to get in the way of putting on a pod, since there's a lot of interest in us recording and getting something out. And I don't think that it precludes a subsequent pod that Bookbinder can join to talk about what he's been working on. So, and I think, and again, before we get into the substance of what he's been working on, I think that it's been a great show of leadership by him. Books has been quietly, as everyone knows, going around and having sort of one-on-one conversations with people over the last, weeks or months, to get a feel for where everyone is on reform, on where do we go from here in the wake of Phil leaving. And it's been, I think, a productive exercise by him, similar to what Ever did the previous year, 2 years ago with his polling. But this has been sort of a more discreet version of it. And I think has been effective and has allowed him to develop some good kind of objective criteria to understand where things are. So that's my acknowledgement and appreciation for what Bookbinder's been doing. We don't want to step on his toes, but we do want to talk about some of the ideas that have been kicking around. Before we get into it, Lusk, I know you share my view, at least to some extent, on the refreshing and valuable leadership of Scotty B.
I do, yeah. I mean, I Scott and I have not had a chance to connect, and that's that I regret that, because he's been that's no fault of his. That's just been I've been busy and he's been busy. But he has sent me his notes, and I think it's really thoughtful, and I think he's done a really outstanding job of just kind of like organizing the ideas that are out there. I personally, I'm a little impatient. Like I said earlier in the podcast, like I wish we as a league had more urgency about this, and I'm ready for some consensus building. And I'm not sure how we go from organizing ideas to that, but I'm eager to do
that. Yeah, I think it's happening, and we can. Well, let's talk about it a little bit. I'll give my perspective, and then I'm curious about yours again before we get into the substance. As you all know, I've not been a big proponent of reform, and have very cautiously voted for some of the most kind of modest reform measures in the last year. At this point, I think it's clear, and I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't exist, that there's a critical mass, maybe probably a majority of the league that wants to see some kind of change. The bird rights proposal got voted in. I think a lot of people, upon reconsideration, don't love it. I think in part the podcast that we did with Beer and Height, where we sort of broke it down after the thing had gotten passed, a lot of people came and said, "Oh, that was helpful. I wish you had done that beforehand. I probably would have voted for it." So there's a lot of demand for change. There's not a lot of love for the status quo reform measure that passed, and I think we're going to do something. I think what Books is going to do next week or the following week or at some point soon is come up with a path forward that includes sort of a logically sequenced. You don't want to vote for one because you don't know if you wouldn't want that one to pass if another one passes or whatever. I think he's trying to think that through. But for my part, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to just move on. I'm really sick of talking about reform. I'm really sick of talking about all these different measures. I'm really sick of having this discussion. I want to just go draft basketball players, whatever the rules are. So that's sort of always been my view. And I'd hoped that we didn't need to do anything dramatic, but I'm ready to pick one of these things and move on. So it's really just a question of which one. Gabe, curious what your reaction is to that and whether you share that perspective.
First of all, I know it's silly, but I think that I would like to suggest that we have a league-wide conference call at some point to decide this. I think that we've tried email and Slack for this, and it has not been an effective means of having this debate. And no one, myself very much included, wants to have this debate in person at the ranch. Everyone wants to have a good time there. So I think we need to find another avenue to have this discussion. Substantively, yeah, I voted for bird rights. I am not married to it at all, and would like to find another solution and move on and draft basketball players as well. I do think that I think we're going to have to go through a little homework here in order to come out the other side in a better place, because I do think there's an issue that we need to resolve.
What do you envision happening on that call?
I just think that people won't want to waste time as much and maybe won't dig in as much, and we can have a little bit more of a rational discourse.
And do you envision sort of settling on something on that call, or having a call for an hour some night, and then as soon as the call's over, everyone just votes? It's we have the call, that's the debate, that's whatever people need to say is said, then we hang up, and then 12 hours later we vote.
Oh yeah, right. 12 hours later, the email goes out and people decide. Yeah, I think that we get everything on the table. We let everyone make their arguments. Hopefully, people won't be quite as entrenched and sort of taking pot shots and falling back into old habits as they tend to do in other formats. And that would be kind of the last forum, so everyone can feel informed. Everyone can ask questions. Everyone can press each other, even if they're having a busy day at work and don't have time to write that email where they have a question they just never bothered to get answered, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Lusk, anything more before we get into the substance?
I like Gabe's conference call idea. I think they've been productive in the past when we've had them, and agree that would probably be a better forum. I think in writing, some of both on Slack and an email, we tend to, these conversations don't really tend to go anywhere.
The use of emojis undermines the seriousness of the conversation. The use of right, there's just something about the format.
Plus, just temporally, it would be nice to rip the Band-Aid off in an hour and a half conversation. Yeah, I agree. I'm done talking about that.
Yeah, that's actually I didn't love the idea of the call, but the idea of just it's an hour, whatever people need to say is said. Any questions people have are asked and answered. If there's some nuance of one of the proposals that you don't understand, it needs to get resolved then. Whoever the proponent is needs to just whatever is it going to be 3 years or 2? Is it going to be what happens in this scenario? That needs to just get figured out on that call, and then we hang up and vote. I like that. So I wanted to start with the proposal that is probably that would be the most disruptive to the status quo, and for that reason, I think is the most interesting to think about, at least as a thought exercise. And that is the promotion relegation idea. So the basic contours of it, and again, I'm going to let Bookbinder sort of get into all the details next week, but the basic contours of it is the first year we do it, the worst 3 teams get relegated. The following year, they're playing in effectively a B league where they can't win the UFBL championship, but for all intents and purposes, they are in the league. They're going to draft a team from the same pool of players. They can make trades. They're going to compete in each roto category with everyone else. They just can't win. And the best 2 of those 3 teams will be promoted back into the A League the following year. The third team will spend a subsequent year in the B League. And of course, the bottom 2 teams from the A League get then relegated as well. So that's the basic gist of it. Gabe, you are a fan of European soccer and the Premier League, among other leagues. What do you think of promotion relegation for UFBL?
Notionally, I find it so exciting and fun to think about. I really do think it would probably solve a great deal of the specific issues that we have. I fear that it would introduce more issues that would be a net negative. But it's fun to think about. Also, I think you've thought about this a lot more than I have about the repercussions. I have some thoughts on framework, but I'm kind of more interested in your opinion than mine on this one.
Lusky, do you have a current view on this, both in terms of its viability and in terms of its attractiveness?
Yeah, I have a very similar point of view of what Gabe said. I mean, I think that in a vacuum, if you asked me if this was the only proposal on the table, if you asked me if I wanted this to do this move or stay in the current construct of our league, I would probably say let's try it, because I'm that frustrated with kind of the current dynamics and I like Gabe said, I think this would be an interesting way to try and tackle a lot of the biggest pain points with our league currently. I also share that fear. I think I think we might just be moving the cheese with this, where it just creates a different types of buyers and sellers. But it might address some of the preseason tanking and stuff that I think is really the kind of core problem with our league right now.
Yeah, I mean, the most attractive part of this proposal is, and I've said this to some, the problem, as best as we've been able to identify it in terms of UFBL consensus on what the problem is. The problem is that it's all or nothing stakes in any particular year, and what's attractive about this is that it basically says, if you want to play that game, if you want to do the all or nothing game and pay $200 for an LSL guy, or you want to spend all your cash on a long-term keeper contract during the summer before the auction, whatever, you can do that. We're not going to stop you from doing that, but that means that if you are mortgaging your future, and then if you participate in the arms race during the season, you're trying to win your banner in a particular year, and you bottom out, that's fine. You can still do that, and I like that. And I know that there's others in the league who like that managers have the freedom to pursue that if they want to pursue it. But if you do that, then you pay a much steeper cost than you pay now, which is you're going to spend that following year in the cellar because you're going to come in with no slots, no cash, no keepers, whatever. And then after that, you're going to spend another year in the B League. So no matter how well you do in terms of drafting and everything else, you're going to be in the penalty box. And then there's a chance that you're going to, if you don't get promoted, then you may spend a third year in the penalty box. That's a really serious consequence. And I think that is enough to seriously discourage just about anyone from pursuing the thing that I think we all agree is the source of the issue, to the extent that there's an issue. So I like that it gets at that. yet still preserves people's ability to pursue whatever strategies they want. If they want to spend $200 on LSL guys, they can. If they want to do scorched earth during the arms race, they can. But they may come up short and have nothing to show for it, and then have to spend years in the penalty box. So it's a real consequence. That is the most attractive part about it to me.
What worries me most, sorry, I know you're not done yet. What worries me most are the examples are at the extremes. Like, it's someone spending 3 or, like, God forbid, 4 years straight in the bottom tier. Like, that's when I start getting worried about people just quitting the league. And then it's someone in the bottom tier actually having the best team but not winning the league because they were in the bottom tier. That scares me also.
So I'm really interested in the economic. So the second point is easier to address than the first, because the first is like a UAFBL cultural question, which I'm interested in asking and discussing. But the second is, like, what are the economics of being in the B League? Like, Lusk, imagine that you are you come into a season with roughly $400 in 3 slots, or $405 in 4 or something. But you're in the B League, so you can't win the championship that year. Begin thinking about like what makes the most sense in terms of how you would spend your auction. How would you use those slots? Because there's like 2 considerations, right? One is I only need to beat out one of these other 3 losers to get promoted. So I could finish 9th, or if they finish 11th and 13th and be promoted. I could finish 5th, and the other guys finish 8th and 10th, and I get promoted. But then I'm also thinking, I need to be building a team for 2 years from now, assuming that I'm successful in being promoted. So with those considerations, like how would you think a relegated team would spend his assets?
I guess I haven't like really thought about the strategy if we were to vote on that, but just thinking about it for the first time, I think my strategy, and it's probably not the correct one, would be just to focus on getting out of the basement. I need no matter what to guarantee that I'm out of the basement. I would probably kind of fall back to a typical dirty dog strategy of just trying to build a competitive team, pick up a couple of solid keepers along the way. And then once I was, in the A group, then try and, maneuver my way into the best position to win the league.
Gabe, talk about the fan experience of a English Premier League team that gets relegated and can't get back up to the Premier League. Like, what's life like for a fucking Hull supporter?
It's just, I mean, that's the part I find kind of fun. Like, I like that there would be like fully, like, they're not like half interesting battles. It's not anything like what we have now. Like, there would be a lot of years where the most interesting thing going on in the league would be in the middle rather than at one of the ends, which is pretty cool to think about.
I like the idea of it's getting close to the trade deadline, and you've got the team that's in second place in UAFBL and the team that's in third, that the worst of the 3 teams in the B League that have been relegated, and they're both like making offers to the same seller for some current value asset. Like, they're both dying to add Mike Conley or something. That dynamic is really interesting. That would be really fun for the league, I think.
I also wonder if it might encourage rivalries more, which is something we've never really had before, and maybe we could never have because we're all at base pretty nice people and friends with each other. But like, that's a dynamic that happens a lot in soccer. Is like when you're vying in those kind of positions, there's such gut punching events when they happen that like if the same 2 people were going up against each other for promotion one year or a championship the next, I could see that turning into a dynamic we don't currently have. And, finishing above someone in particular might be more interesting than it is now.
I think that's a good point. Yeah. It's like, it gives the culture of UAFBL a little bit of a shot of steroids or something. It creates interesting narratives and franchise narratives that we have, but not to the same degree. Lusk, do you have a sense of? Books told me when I spoke to him, but and I know you haven't spoken to him, but do you have a sense of the popularity of this in the league?
I don't really. I don't. I mean, I think I've talked to Peskin about it, and like had little discussions here and there. I think everybody finds it interesting. I think there's there's something about it. The fact that I don't know of any fantasy league out there where you can come into a season and not have a chance to win a championship. You know what I mean? Like we might be the only fantasy league period where that, like, in any sport.
Imagine telling your like wife or friend or
Oh.
colleague that like you're gonna go to Texas to draft a fantasy basketball team in a league that you can't win this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our league is already like really complex and difficult to explain to someone who's actually knows about fantasy sports. But you add this into the mix, it's over. You know?
Yeah, it makes the whole thing just Byzantine and bizarre. Yeah, I'm definitely in the group that's like intrigued by it. There's a lot of unintended consequences that I expect to see. Some expected, some unexpected, I should say. Go ahead, Leslie.
Just one little thing I'll add is like, I think one of my reactions to this proposal and is like, and the same goes frankly for Peskin's wheel or whatever it's called, the cap train. Yeah. And to bird rights.
Wait, hold on. It's got a new name now. It's called Cap Train 2025.
Okay. And bird rights even, which I was not a fan of. Like, I feel like the like, there's like this progressive wing of the reform committee that like comes up with like really creative ideas that just kind of scare me. And I actually feel like our league is closer to normalcy than we give it credit for. And that if we made some like just rational tweaks to our system, that we could rein it in and get back to reason.
Right.
Everyone feels that way, but we haven't found those rational tweaks yet.
So Lusky's teeing up. Lusky is teeing up his preferred path.
Oh, 30-30-30.
30-30-30 coupled with plus minus 20 throughout the year.
I'm not set on those specific ones, but I think that if we focus on just the issue, like just the fundamental issue that there's too many assets out there, and when you have too many assets, so one on the $20 side, I mean, I think there's pretty broad consensus on this, just given like the DSJ types of deals. The concern is the loophole around like the whole like off-season buying a player for $170 type of thing. But like that's just silly, and that speaks very much to the preseason mucking problem that I think that a lot of people think is kind of
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we could there's what's attractive about those proposals, Lusk. I agree with you that they are much more modest than promotion and relegation or some of the other things, including bird rights. They're modest tweaks to the existing system, and there's sort of two flavors of behavior, of sort of malign behavior that the league reacts negatively to. One is the preseason muck, which really takes two forms, right? One is the paying $177 for Dennis Smith. The other form is spending all of your cash on rookies and upside guys, basically, especially if you come in with a short stack. And then the other flavor is just red weddings and the eagerness of certain sellers in any given year to maximize their value for the following year. And yours,
yeah. And so,
go ahead. Yours only gets at the first. Well, yours gets at one of those, but not the other.
Well, so I would actually argue that 30-30-30 actually does a pretty significant impact on the red wedding problem. And here's why, right? So one is that in a 30-30-30 world, a lot less lottery ticket keepers are going to get bet on, right? I'm telling you today, if we rewind, like I'm not keeping Giannis at 42 at that time, right? I'm not keeping Russell Westbrook at 99 the year after he's coming off a knee surgery. You know, like a bunch of keepers.
No, Russell that year would have been. It would have been like 108, 108, 108.
Yeah, right. So a lot of these guys in UAFBL, we make it so easy to keep a player in year one that it's dumb not to. Right. And you end up with,
I don't know, man. We've got people get thrown back every year. There's a whole group of keepers. Like if we went through that list that you were talking about earlier, there's a whole slew of keepers that are like fine, but like totally uninteresting. Like there's probably like at least a dozen of those. Like I don't think that it's as you describe.
I mean, I've looked at the stats, like comparing the league that I'm in that plays 30-30-30 and the league that plays 10-20-30. I mean, there's a ton, the keeper slots get used and there's a ton fewer 3-year contracts.
But doesn't your proposal, so let's assume that there are fewer speculative keeps. And so the keeps that you have are going to tend to be, so one thing that happens is, as in WCL, this drives down keeper slot prices, and that's fine. Right. I'm agnostic on that.
That is a trade-off.
I don't need slots to be expensive. I'm happy for slots to be half the price. But if the players that end up being kept are just like no brainer, grand slam, home run, superstar keepers, doesn't that just make those keepers that much more valuable, since they're all grand slams and there are like fewer good uses of the slots?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good argument, except here's the deal is that like if you're paying 47 for like if you had to pay 47 for Donovan Mitchell next year, you're doing it anyway, right? And if you have to pay 71 for Ben Simmons next year, you're doing it anyway because those guys are worth it, right? Like, and the reality is like you'll probably swing a lopsided deal in the back half of the year still for those guys when you keep them at that price. And but it's okay because those guys are worth it, right? Unlike what happens now where like we end up having these trades for like crumbs of keeper value that like aren't even very good players. We flood the market with these contracts that are like marginally good or frankly bad. And it just widens the gap between buyers and sellers.
And you think Westbrook is an example of that?
I just think that. So in the case of Westbrook and Giannis, like I'm just making the point that like those were two like in the Westbrook case it was a red wedding deal, and the Giannis.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the Westbrook case. So I think what you're saying, tell me if I have this wrong, is that Westbrook in a 30-30-30 world, it wouldn't have been a no-brainer that you would have actually that I think I kept him, right? I kept him and traded it to you. Or
no, you traded him to me before.
Then you kept him.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I probably wouldn't have bought him at all.
Right.
And okay. I can pretty much guarantee he's not getting kept at 108 coming off of knee surgery.
Right. Okay. So I agree with that. That would have been a much less attractive keep. So he may not have been kept at all.
Right.
So then why do we give a fuck that Bookbinder bought him? Why is if that's true, then and that he's sort of like not that great, like $20 of savings.
It wasn't about that direction of the trade. It was about the other direction.
But like, people are going to do that no matter what. I just don't see how it actually impacts the likelihood that some.
I'm telling you, only good, worth it players will get kept if you go to 30-30-30, right? Like, look at look at a lot of these teams. Look at my team, right? Like in our dumb league, it frankly doesn't make sense for me to not keep players like Rozier, Saric, Bam, people like that for like 3 years because they cost me like $10, right? And I can always ship them off to a bozo.
I agree, Les. You should definitely keep all of those guys for 3 years.
I'm just making the point, right? Like in our league, it almost doesn't make any sense to not keep a guy for 3 years because you can always pawn them off for nothing.
You say that, but like, okay, so Marquise Chris is the perfect example of this. I kept Marquise Chris for 3 years. I did pawn him off on Peskin, but
you would not have kept him for 3 years at 30, at 40, whatever, right?
But I paid a price for that.
No, you didn't. You gave him a couple bucks?
Yeah, I don't remember. I gave him some cash.
No, like Wiggins is a better example here, Dave. Like Wiggins would have never been captain if he had Gabe. That 3 year contract would have looked like what, like 60, 60, 60 or 70, 70, 70?
Yeah, like
it was 30, 58, 58, 58.
Yeah,
okay.
so A, you're not doing Wiggins at 58, 58, 58, 58. There's no disputing that. And because you did do it in our dumb system, that ended up basically just widening the gap when Horn decided to eat that contract as a buyout in exchange for Serge Ibaka. I mean, that's what our league has come to, is just like passing around bad contracts as assets because we just like go all in on terrible keepers.
I mean, first of all, that doesn't bother me. Second of all, I think we should treat. Our listeners are going to get a lot of reform discussion, hopefully next week. What else is on the agenda?
Hold on, I just want to say, Lusky, they're either all good contracts or they're all bad contracts. You can't have the like. Either the current system like allows for amazing contracts like Giannis, or it only like creates bad contracts like Wiggins. You can't have it both ways.
No, you can, because our current system just encourages long-term keepers, period. Some of those are lottery tickets, right? Some of those
it's a keeper league. That's what's fun about
you can still keep players that are good players. You should keep Donovan Mitchell, and you don't care about spending $47 on him next year. The difference between you spending $27 and $47 on him next year, you wipe your ass with that difference. Right?
I think if you asked me, would I rather play in a league where Bam Adebayo gets kept or doesn't, I would say gets kept.
Yeah, dude. This is like, Lusky, this goes back to like you've grown out of this as a franchise, but there was like a time, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when Dirty Dog Nation would like love keeping these like veteran guys at like 44, 54, 64, like Monta Ellis, you know, in like the mid range with like $15 to $20 below.
No,
below
the league has changed. The league has changed. First of all, I never kept those guys multiple years.
And your proposal basically pushes everyone back into a world where like the Monta Ellises of the world are going to be like the snazzy.
Yeah, instead of this ridiculous world where you go and you
nobody wants to play in that league.
You keep Domantas Sabonis and hope that in 3 years you can trade him for someone's entire team.
Dude, so okay, LSL has been, for all of the evils that it's introduced to our league, at least according to some, people love LSL because people love thinking about, reading about, following Jaren Jackson and Trae Young and Michael Porter and whatever. Like, that's fun. That's what's fun about basketball. That's what's fun about the NBA. That's what we enjoy that. Nobody gives a shit about like fucking like average starter, mid-career veterans. Like,
but we do care about $170 exchanging hands for an LSL player, I believe.
So okay, so right. I think people are really concerned about that, and I think there are other ways to address that. But what you're proposing is I think pushing this league away from what's fun about the league.
No, all it does, man, is it makes you pay for guys you like, right? You would still be keeping every single guy that you're.
Marquise Chris. I like Marquise Chris. What's fun about the league is
then why the fuck did you pay to get him off your team? If you like him so much, why did you pay to get him off your team? That's ridiculous.
Because it didn't work out, and then the market was able to.
Yeah, because you're playing the fucking lottery, and
I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, he's overdue. He's overdue an interruption.
You like Marquise Chris so much that you paid to get rid of him. That's what our league is about.
Lusky's overdue an interruption, Gabe. Please go on.
I don't think that we should ape the real NBA I don't think that it being like the real NBA is inherently a good thing, but this is like, it's not like there isn't real world precedent for paying to get off of contracts. It's a major aspect of the real league, and that, I guess, maybe just normalizes it for me. But repeatedly in this conversation, Lusky, you've said things that in a tone that sounds negative, but when I just think about the words, they sound positive. Like, do you want to live in a world where you get $500? Yeah, I do.
Let's move on.
I just makes the league less competitive.
Let's move on from 30-30-30. We don't need to talk about all these. I think the other one I want to. So the others and Bookbinder can talk about these are, I think, modified bird rights. Books can get into that. I don't think we need to talk about it right now. But I do want to.
I want to make a point about regular bird rights.
I'd like to make a point about regular bird rights too. You go first.
Which is just because I don't think we've had a pod since.
Yeah, we did, dude. Me and Beer and Height recorded a podcast after it passed.
No, I know. But I want to respond to that. I haven't been on a pod since you guys did your bird rights.
That's not true. You were on the pod that we did with Emmer in the last night of the season.
Was
But say what you have to say.
Well, so I mean, perhaps I stated this in the last one, but you know, I just want to say, like, I'm anti bird rights, but for a different reason than a lot of other people are, and I don't think the new proposal fixes it either. Which is, I actually don't think that bird rights changes any trade behavior whatsoever, and I think all it's going to do is just further widen the gap. Because what's going to happen, because we're a win at all cost league, those buyers are going to continue to go all in. For those contracts, and then they're gonna just end up paying the difference for the keepers. It's not like they're gonna trade their keepers with cash to make up the difference, and we're just gonna widen the gap between buyers and sellers.
So I don't quite understand what you're saying, and I'd like to understand what you're saying.
So when you guys recorded your pod, you said that like bird rights was like the death knell of the trade market, right? I don't think that's true. I don't
recall saying anything so alarmist.
I can pull up the clip, but there was definitely a suggestion that the trade market was going to collapse.
Pest can do it in post-production.
Okay. What I'm telling you is, I don't think that there's really going to be any slowdown of trading. What's still going to happen is that because we're a win at all cost league and the buyers are willing to give anything for that inch, right? What they're going to do is they're still going to trade their keepers to the sucker sellers, and they're going to get an entire team from them. And all they're going to do is throw in a little bit more cash than they would have otherwise to cover the difference of the $10 premium. And I know people will respond and go, "Oh, well, you can only do that so many times because you got $30. You got $30. We give you so much room to play around with. Like that monetary amount like is negligible. It just means that you won't be able to spend your $4 on some shitty player at the So I basically think that what this is going to do is just make it worse, because now those buyers are paying more money, and you're still going to get these lopsided deals.
Gabe, what do you?
I think he's probably right, and I desperately want to talk about something other than reform.
Let's talk about. I'm right now watching Game 1 of the 1992 finals between the Trailblazers and the Bulls, and when I watch these things, I can't help but ask like whether these guys would be good right now. So Clyde Drexler, I think would be a really, really fun, interesting. Like where would you, if Clyde Drexler from 1992 was in the 2018 NBA, with his skill set and athleticism from 1992, where do you think he would rank in like the top X of players?
Wouldn't he be like DeRozan-y?
No, better than that. He shoots threes and plays defense, right?
I think he's way better. I'm watching this. He's
like Paul George.
Yeah, he's incredibly skilled. His skill is amazing. His handle is great. His passing is great. His vision is great. He does all the things with the ball, and he just looks like a guy who has not stopped dribbling a basketball from like the time he was 2 years old. Who's the most skilled player in the NBA right now, Gabe? Handle, passing, touch, footwork.
Curry?
Maybe. Not Paul. Is it definitely a point guard?
I think you'd have to rank it by position. I think we're forgetting someone obvious here, probably.
LeBron.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I don't think. Is it LeBron? You don't. I mean, it might be. One doesn't think about his skill as the thing that distinguishes him. Oh, dude. Hold on. I've got an alarm going off. So Nate at 6 o'clock. Well, at 7 o'clock tonight, set a 4-hour alarm on our Google Home app, and it just went off. I kept. He told me that he did it. And I kept meaning to turn it off. Damn it. Les, who do you think?
Curry was a good pick. I was thinking maybe CP3. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking CP3. It might be Curry. I might be right. Yeah, he's good, but like the quality of the play, like I don't know, man. Like Kevin Duckworth, like posting up Bill Cartwright, like in like critical moments, is just not. It's just not. It's not sexy. It's clearly not what the league is now, and it's just sort of hard to like take the Jordan stuff seriously when like that's what they're doing. And
Yeah, I mean, this is a big topic on NBA Twitter. You know, people will post highlights of like golden era Celtics Lakers games, and they just look like complete trash compared to what we get to see now.
I mean,
We're blessed.
this right. So not this 92. I mean, this game that I'm watching is not that because you have these super athletic guards, and they're doing things that the guys do now in terms of like athleticism and passing but like some of the other guys like Jerome Kersey and fucking I mean Danny Ainge just made an appearance for Portland. I don't know. Next question on things that I've been flipping through the channels watching. When, Lusky, are you going to be woke enough to take the WNBA seriously?
That's not happening. I was in Vegas last weekend, and they have a lot of marketing around their new WNBA team, the Las Vegas Aces.
Yes, and like
A bunch of
all the Ringer people are really into it.
yeah, and like actually because of Summer League, like a bunch of the Summer League players like were showing their support, and I think they were like, there were reports that a bunch of them went to the Aces games and stuff. I mean, I'm never going. I don't ever see it happening.
Gabe, what do you think about the current like summer 2018 feels like at least the moment that WNBA breaks through like NBA intelligentsia. Like when you read like the what's his name Tom Ziller's like column in the morning, like he's talking about like WNBA shit in like a very knowing way, and that has not happened before.
I'm skeptical. I mean, I've noticed what you've noticed. People do seem to be trying to make it a thing more, but I tend to think it's lip service. I guess if I was going to paint a rosy picture, I would say next summer, I believe, is the Women's World Cup. And I could see this being like a breakthrough event for women's sports generally in the current climate. So maybe then people will have more of an appetite for it, but I'm not sure how much I believe myself.
I definitely go ahead, Les.
Well, as much as I enjoy talking about WNBA, I was wondering if it might be a better parlor game to do a way too early discussion of my list of maybe keepers.
Yes.
Let's do it, man. Why don't you lead the discussion?
Let's give the people what they want.
Why don't you lead the discussion?
Okay, so the first maybe keeper. Actually,
just know that I've got another half dozen observations from the 20 minutes I spent watching television before we recorded the pod. If you need anything, if you need material, I'm happy to dive back into that.
Okay, so the first so before you respond to whether you think these guys are keepers or not, you should first guess without looking what you think their keeper price is.
Yeah.
Okay. So first guy on my list, Tyreke Evans.
Wait, what's the exercise?
His price is $16, something like that. 14.
Dave, do you have a guess on Tyreke Evans?
This is what Tyreke will cost to keep.
Yes.
I think Gabe's right in there. I'll. What'd you say, Gabe? 16?
It's either 14 or 16. I think.
I'll take 18.
It's $12.
Woo!
Ooh.
$12 for Tyreke Evans, your
And wait,
newest
is he on the
Indiana
Pacers?
Pacer. Yeah.
Okay.
So wait, what's their lineup?
It's like Miles Turner, Oladipo.
So it's Collison. So he's gonna come off the bench. It's Collison. It's Oladipo.
Who's their third guard?
Do they still have the lesser Bogdanovich?
Yeah.
Yes. But he plays like the 4 there.
And Thad. Well, no. What did Thad plays before?
I think Thad starts at the 4, and one of them starts and one of them comes off the bench at the 4.
Well, then they got Sabonis on the bench. They got a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, but in the backcourt, I'm not gonna lie, that doesn't excite me a lot. He could go back to being the version of Tyreke he was for like the 5 years in between him being valuable at UNC.
Who owns him, Les?
That's good.
Emmer drafted him. I don't know where he ended up though.
He is on Bookbinder's team.
Who did they draft? Who did the Pacers draft?
They drafted a guy who plays the same position, which is the third Holiday brother.
Oh, here's one. This guy's on Gabe's team. Gabe's gonna know his price, so Horn, you have to guess it. Lou Williams.
Yes.
You say that, but when you get to players on my team, I'm not going to know their price. I haven't looked at this shit in a long time.
I guess that's how much he is.
Lou Will. I'm going to guess that last year you paid. Wait, was he on the Clippers at the beginning of the season? Yes, right?
I think so.
Yeah. He started the season there. Yeah, because he was part of the Chris Paul deal.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, so this is his price to keep. 22.
Ooh, really good. 21. But he was amazing last year. Like
he
Gabe,
was
he was like your best player.
a top 15 player a lot of the year.
Yeah. All right. What do you guys think? Keeper or no?
No, I mean, somebody at Fox Creek Ranch is gonna say like, I'm low on cash. I need a guy who does X, Y, Z. Like Lou Will is actually perfect. Like if I could, just, I've got this slot. That would be good. I'll pay $1 for him. Like, I can see that.
I don't think he's like a fill-in. I think he's like if you believe in him, that's a really good price for him. I'm not exaggerating. He was a top 15 player for multiple months last year.
Lusky, name. Dude, okay. Gabe, I commented on this to you the other day and you didn't respond because we've got real lives and we're too busy. But the Clippers backcourt is fucking amazing. There's so many good players who are going to demand minutes, who are good at fantasy and will demand actual NBA minutes in the Clippers backcourt this year. They're like 5 deep. They've got Avery Bradley, they've got Patrick Beverly, they've got Teodosic, they've got Lou Will, and now they've got SGA.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't see where like the Lou Will minutes are going to come from. I mean, I think that he's great, so he'll get. I mean, he's going to get his 28 minutes or whatever. So like, and man, that's all he really needs to do what he needs to do. So I do think that I could see him being kept, but I don't think that like last year they didn't have all those bodies.
Okay, next one, Luck.
The King Bogdanovich.
Ugh. He went for like 8. I'm going to say he's like 18.
Less. 13.
13. Oh, he went for $3. My God.
Yeah. It's so perfect too because he's on Beer's team and he kind of has like a little bit of that like Brogdon, like nothing sexy about him, but he's young.
Is he? How young is he?
He's the other Bogdanovich.
No, I know, but like,
he played in Europe for a while.
Yeah, are these guys like 25?
I think he's mid-20s.
He's 25.
That's a very borderline one for me, but if it hits, it'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the 25-year-olds is that your impulse is to say that there's no upside. On the other hand, like...
But he's like learning the NBA.
Yeah. All right, who's next, Les?
All right, this is an expensive one, but I think you guys are going to be into it. Capella.
50.
55.
50.
50.
Yeah, nailed it. Yes or no at 50?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think he's on T-Mac's team, so it's a definite yes. Yeah.
It's a definite yes. Yeah. I don't see that moving.
Okay. Oh, here's an interesting one. This one's a fun one. CP3.
Huh.
What did he go for? Low triple.
I'm gonna say he's gonna be 104.
I'll say he like 114.
He's more than that. He's 126 to keep.
Nah, I don't think anyone wants to do that.
Not into it. DeRozan, San Antonio Spur.
54.
Ooh, dude, very close.
Yeah, dude, DeRozan goes in that range every single year.
55.
But now he hits a 3 a game, and in San Antonio he's going to hit 2.5 threes a game.
Yeah, you're all over that, right, Horn? 55 for DeRozan. You love that.
I can't talk about DeRozan right now, dude. I'm gonna need at least another scotch and maybe before I start going on about what.
Here's a fun one. He can't be kept. He's on Phil's team. Never mind.
I think we should have an open auction for Phil's keepers.
This one's only on my list. You guys are gonna say no way. But this guy had a run last year. Dwight Powell.
Stop. Stop.
They signed DeAndre Jordan.
They play different positions. Powell plays.
Oh, that was a desperation amount of minutes he got last year.
Okay.
Wait, that's who's on Phil's team?
Yeah, I
there
made this list before the
Are there any squinty keepers on Phil's team?
Miratic.
Dude, why do you have such a hard time pronouncing the Slavic names?
I just don't put an effort into it. I just don't put any effort into it. Oh, actually, this guy should definitely not be on the maybe list because Weeg's gonna keep him 3 years. Who am I talking about?
I have no idea.
Karis LeVert.
Oh, I'm gonna say he went for. I'm gonna say he went for like 14 last year.
He went for 5.
Oh, so he's gonna be 15 to keep. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
He wouldn't keep him at 35, 35, 35, but at 15, 25, 35 is definitely happening. Inez, the Pinez, Cantor.
Oh, no, dude, he was so good.
He was so good last year.
He was like, it hurt my feelings how good he was last year. I like every rebound he got and every putback layup like hurt my soul. I don't remember how much he went for though.
He was 21, so he could be 31 to keep.
I think people are going to forget how good he was, and he'll go back on the market and be a good buy again.
Gabe, walk me through their starting lineup.
So their backcourt is Frankie Smokes and Trey Burke.
No, Trey Burke's not starting.
I think he is. Who would you like to have starting for them?
Wait, don't they have? Wait, who'd they get this offseason?
They got Kevin Knox.
They not.
And they got your old boyfriend from Orlando.
Oh yeah, he's gonna start, dude. He's gonna start at the 2.
You think Hazonia?
Who they get from Orlando?
Yeah,
Hazonia.
Trey Burke. That's the. And Hardaway. They have Hardaway. It's gonna be
at the 3.
Yeah.
It's
gonna be Hazonia. It's gonna be Frankie Smokes, Hazonia, Hardaway. Can Knox play the 4?
Knox and Cantor until KP comes back.
Wait, can Knox actually play the 4?
Yeah, but he's a 4 in the end in 2018.
I thought I thought yeah. I thought he was like a 3.
He would have been he's like a Tobias Harris size.
Yeah, dude. I like that team. I like that team if Hazonia actually like plays at a level that's anywhere near where like he plays in my dreams.
I think you're gonna be surprised when Trey Burke is starting at the point and Frankie Smokes is either starting at the 2 or coming off the bench.
So that brings me to the next person on my maybe list, Hazonia.
$10 to keep.
10 to keep.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's Height has a pretty crazy list of maybe keepers actually.
Read Height's entire team from top to bottom, please.
It's pretty amazing actually. Height has Jabari Parker, who I don't think you can keep, but maybe 31.
What's his role gonna be?
He's gonna start in Chicago and be there.
They just have 2. They don't have a small forward. They have 2 power forwards masquerading as small forwards there, which is an issue.
Wait, who? Oh, Bobby Portis?
Well, but no, he's off the bench. Can you start Markkanen and? Oh,
Markkanen. Yeah, but Markkanen plays so far out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a little awkward still.
Yeah, and Parker is not good when he plays at the 3, right?
No, he's not.
Yeah. Jared Allen for 15 to keep.
Yes.
Yeah,
obviously. Thon McCurr is obviously
Ron Baker is not being kept.
Okay, we can pat.
Thon for 34, right?
Yeah. Jamal Murray under contract for what is it? Is it 30 next year?
He's going to lose minutes to Isaiah Thomas next.
Al Horford not being kept.
No.
Hazonia for 10.
I love it. 3-year keeper.
Jaylen Brown for 23.
Keeper.
Yeah. Andrew Wiggins. No.
How much was he? He was 40.
He was 26 last year.
So he's 36 to keep.
Yeah. DeJounte Murray went kind of high. But
he went for 20.
What's that?
He went for 17 or 20?
He went for 17, so he'd be 27. Yeah.
Who's 27 to keep?
27 for DeJounte.
DeJounte.
Oh.
Are you going 3 on that, or?
I can't talk about the
It's
Spurs
either
right now,
3
man.
or 0. It's either 3 or 0, right?
I can't talk about the Spurs right now.
Rodney Hood, not a keeper. Zach LaVine, one more, or is it just one more year? Yeah, one more year at 32. And then the rest of these guys are not keepers. Although, or actually, no, Lonzo Ball.
Oh, dude, Height's got a fun team.
Lonzo Ball,
Yeah.
34. Malik Monk, who actually wasn't he good in summer league or something?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I mean, he's got a lot of scraps on there.
Who ended up on the right side of history on Zach LaVine?
Emmer. Oh no, Emmer ended up in the well. I mean, Emmer avoided paying a crazy price for Zach LaVine.
Okay. Who thought Zach LaVine
you mean in UFBL, right?
who thought Zach LaVine would be bad?
Nobody. Everyone thought Zach LaVine would be good.
Oh,
Emmer offered.
you're all idiots.
$25 in 2 slots or something. I don't know. Unless you were there, what was the offer?
I've blocked it out of my memory.
Yeah, and Height. So like Emmer thought he was going to be amazing, and Height refused because he thought it was going to be amazing.
So Horn, the slot market. You're talking about slot market. Height has 3 slots, and he has Jamal Murray and Zach LaVine under contract, and he's got Jarrett Allen, Jaylen Brown, and Lonzo, and then Hezonja just lurking in the wings.
Interesting.
I think LaVine's a toss back.
Oh, really?
Maybe that's just me on him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, toss back is, I guess, possibility.
What's LaVine on?
32.
The problem with the toss back is that people fuck you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wait. I also want to talk about that. Hold on. I'll do one more on my list, and then I want to talk about another random proposal that I'm going to put out there, and you guys are all going to screw me on it. Okay, hold on. Nance is my last guy. So no, I have 2 more. So Nance
is 25 to keep.
No,
he was like $1.
Yeah,
he was Nance was Glassby's topper.
Yeah, he's 12 to keep.
Wow. Wait, he was the topper. Wait, he was. I remember that he was Glassby's topper. I don't remember that it was that ridiculous. He was topped at $2.
Yes, it was awesome.
Someone said Larry Nance $1, and then Glassby said topper.
So
I can't believe people were against toppers.
So Larry Nance at $12. I mean, the Cavs are going to be terrible next year, right? And Nance is going to be like kind of essential.
Player.
Yeah. Okay, last one I've got here is actually this is a Gabe player. You know who I'm going to say, Gabe, right?
On my team?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me guess.
This guy was hurt, I think, by free agency, maybe.
Julius Randle?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that guy is fucking awesome. He's not that cheap, but he's
I'm
really
just not
awesome.
clear. I'm not clear what they're gonna do. Like, they obviously love him because they gave him a big offer, but Mirotic was really good for them last year.
It's true.
And I don't think either of those guys can play any position but 4. I don't know.
And they're gonna need shooting with DeAndre.
Yeah. Or with who?
Or with
DeMarcus.
Yeah, DeMarcus go.
With AD.
Or with AD. So, okay, hold on. I have another proposal not related to reform that I think is interesting. Just hear me out. And I'm unabashedly calling this the Porzingis rule. Right? So, here's my idea. So toppers already defy logic, right? In the sense that
we may need to unpack that statement. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So here's what I'm saying: is like if you went to like a private auction, like just in the real world, not in UAFBL, you went to a private auction and you like won a signed hat of Dikembe Mutombo, right? And you're like, sweet, I've got Dikembe Mutombo's hat because I put in a winning bid for $25, and some guy in the back of the room was like, topper, and Marshall was like, actually, I have this thing, I'm gonna get it for 26, right? You would be really pissed, right? Like that defies logic, right? You won an auction.
No, but dude, in the real world, if that happened, you would just go to that guy and be like, "I'll give you $40 for that fucking hat."
Well, okay, that's fine. But so just hear me out here. Hear me out. Toppers already have like super ability, right? They defy the rules. They defy the rules that we've always.
Dude, the rules are whatever we make them, man.
I know. Okay, so here's okay. You're with me. All right. So here's the thing. We have like this whole confluence of rules around buyouts, right? Like if I buy out a guy, I can't bid on him, and I can't acquire him.
You're so sore from the Isaiah Thomas debacle of 4 years ago.
No. I get it. But here's where I am at, right? Is like I do think that our league has this like there's like this weird dynamic, right? Everybody knows about it. That like if you buy a guy out, then their keeper price is or their new auction price is depressed as some form of like punishment to the buying out manager, and then that player like more often than not ends up being a pretty good deal, if not a keeper again, right? And so the question I have is this: is like, what if toppers could also be used on a player that you throw back? Right. And that would supersede these rules about not being able to bid on your own player and not being able to open it during the auction. If you choose to burn your topper on a player that you know you're throwing back, that you can choose to do so. Right. And the benefit there is that you don't have to do that, but that could potentially, alleviate some of the like, oh, we're all going to keep this guy's price depressed, right? Because then there's like this lurking sense that he could be topped.
When would you exercise that option?
When your player, same as you would otherwise, your player would get called.
Let's say Peskin's throwing back Marquise Chris, but at that moment, when he throws him back, he would say, and I'm using my topper.
No, he just lets the bidding play out, and everybody's like bidding on the Marquise Chris, and we're like, we're gonna spend
$11.
We're gonna spend $2 on him because we're gonna punish Peskin, right? And then the bidding closes at $2, and he's like, topper, I get him for $3. Right? But since we know that he can use his topper, we're like, well, shit, Marquise Chris is kind of good. I'll pay $8 for that guy, right? And maybe Peskin is using his topper, maybe he's not. Right.
Hold on. So Peskin does that. So Marquise Chris is a 28 this year and 38 next year. If he gets him for $3, uses his topper and gets him for $3, he still has to pay the 25 this year and the 35 next year.
That's right.
So he's not going to keep him the following year if he has to, on top of whatever he has to pay to keep him, is still paying a $25 penalty.
Yeah, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense in a world where you have 2 years left on the guy. But like in the what made me think of it was like Zach LaVine, right? Or Porzingis for me, right? I think those are both valid use cases where if we elect to throw those guys back, that I might want to use my topper on Zinger. And
that's such a modest wrinkle. I like that. I
kind of like it too.
Yeah, because
cool.
Yeah, because you're still paying the penalty. You're still doing the thing that we demand that you do. But if you still like the player, like why should you have to sever ties with the player that you like?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad you guys are kind of into it. I mean, I realize that it's potentially for my own benefit this year, but I also think that it kind of makes sense within this kind of rules that we've already written for toppers and them being somewhat powerful.
Yeah, I'm open to that.
Yeah,
put it on the board.
All right, cool. So you guys don't hate all of my advocacy,
dude.
I have one last. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
Mine is a non sequitur. We can end with it. It's not that
That's
interesting.
fine. I don't want to. Whatever is sequential after Lusky's proposal about mucking around with our topper rules. I don't want to go there.
I offhand mentioned UASPL by name to a friend who I think did not know the name of it yesterday, and he searched for it on Twitter. And I just want everyone to know that Amish posted a panorama of the draft like 3 years ago that remains on Twitter if you look at hashtag UASPL. And I don't know whether to feel proud or embarrassed.
A panorama, like a photograph.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Living in the public eye.
That's not great.
If you know where to look.
That's not great. Anything else before we wrap?
You guys saw the note about security cameras at the ranch, right?
Oh yeah, but why are they there?
Because there's like some neighbors that like they've like the ranch foreman has seen like some neighbors that they don't know like out fishing in their lake and stuff, and they're just worried that they're getting a little too comfortable.
So speaking of the ranch and real auction, is this the year that we go bid on a cow at a cattle auction?
I thought it was the high school football year.
There is a game. It's Navasota's high school homecoming game.
Would that be fun, Lusk, or will it be creepy for 14, 37-year-olds to show up at a high school football game?
We're not doing that. Yeah, we're not doing that.
No.
Yeah. I think I'll tell you what's not sketchy is 14, 37-year-olds showing up at a cattle auction.
Who's taking the cow home on the plane?
Well, I think we would wait. Don't the Harburgs like lease their land for grazing? Can't we just add the cattle to the herd?
Yeah, but like that would really confuse the dude who's renting the land. I think
whoever wins the league gets to brand the cow with their logo.
No, dude, we brand it with the UFBL. No, we all 14 of us go in on the cow, and then we brand them with the UFBL logo.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that guy's out there like counting cows and he's like, well, shit, how did I had 19. How do I have 20?
No, dude. I'm not saying we just like surreptitiously like loop this cow into the herd. I'm saying we like get the cow. We talk, whoever manages the herd, we say like, we'd like you to manage this one cow as well.
No, cow purchasing is like, it gets real sensitive because you got to know like the breed. You don't want mutt cows and shit. Mm-hmm. It's pretty dicey.
This is your new cow, Stefan Cowberry.
I think we should do it. I think it's not at Fox Creek Ranch, then there's just some other ranch nearby where they will let cows of whatever breed we get, like I think we should do it. Do you know where
we should just play it like we do the auction. Like we bid on the guy and then we like basically say it was an accident. We go to the last bidder before and like first we're like, hey, did you really want this cow? We're like, we're gonna do it for $1 less. We'll just buy one to fuck around.
Do you have any idea about what the price point is for a cow?
No idea. I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm gonna research this. I think it'd be super fun, even if we don't buy a cow, to go to one of these auctions. I'd much rather do that than go to a football game.
Yeah, the football game's out.
Yeah. Any other? This is our 10-year anniversary at the ranch, Les. Did you know that?
Yeah.
We should have. I've been saying we should have a black tie gala.
That would be interesting.
Well, in lieu of that, I think we should do something special. If not a cattle auction or a black tie gala, or something. What else? Are there other things that you felt like, it'd be great if all the UFBL guys went and did X while we were down in Texas?
Schlitterbahn.
No. I'll think about it. I'll try and research some like legitimately fun things.
We need to do something. We need to do something to commemorate our 10-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Is that everything?
I think that's it.
All right, guys. Good pod. We'll have Books do his thing soon. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a good night.
Night.
Later, guys.